And I remember walking up to the first door, I about threw up. Yeah, so nervous, turned around and walked away, took a deep breath, walked back up, and knocked on the door and sold my first account.
So tell us a little bit about the pest control business. You
Yeah.
started that from scratch in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So tell us your story.
I wanted to own a lawn care company in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So that was my goals at a young age. So fast forward, now I'm in Green Bay doing lawn care. And what I find to be the need in that area was pest control. And so I just kept selling pest control. And then it morphed into what I didn't know was going to be a pest control company. But yeah, we just kept building the last 3 years, recruiting teams. But then I brought someone that was their one core job. And then the next person I brought in was finance. Their one core job was just finance. So I've gotten really good at building a team around me. Again, because I had a great mentor.
And can you give us kind of your top 2 or 3 ways that's going to draw a customer and get them to pay you money?
For us, the top 3 would be lawn signs, would be referrals. This is number 1.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Green Industry Podcast. Our special guest today, he is one of the best friends of Jonathan Pototschnik, the Lawn Care Millionaire. That's how I met him. His name is Jonas Olson. That's a pretty cool attribute to have. And he's had a local lawn care business in Michigan. And when things got squirrely up there, he went across the border to Wisconsin and opened a pest control business. Welcome to the program, Jonas.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I've got to know each other over the last 6 months or so. So it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, and big shout outs to you being proactive. And Naylor invited you to his LCR Summit in Atlanta. So you came to that.
Great.
I knew that if you're hanging around Jonathan Pototschnik, you got to be a thoroughbred winner. So it was cool then that you popped back up in Alabama at Jason Creel's Lawn Care Life Conference. We really got to spend more time at that event and eating barbecue and late night hotel podcasts. So it was a fun time.
It was a really good time. And again, thanks for having me. And I was just there to support Naylor and support you guys and learn what you guys are doing in this space. So it's been pretty cool. So thanks for letting me into your circle. It was fun.
Yeah, now I'm familiar with your story because we got to hang out in person for several hours and mainly in Alabama. And for our listeners, why don't you give the abbreviated version of how you've been in lawn care, sold your business, pest control, and how in the world you have the most epic mentor. If I could pick one mentor, it would be Jonathan Pototschnik. And you guys are like buddies, like, talking on the phone, hanging out in person at lakes. So tell us how you got in the right place at the right time. Ultimately, story as well.
Man, it could be a long story. I'll keep it abbreviated. So I got into the industry young, kind of like most of us did. Didn't really know what I was doing. I think we were doing like 200,000 revenue. I was beating my head off of a wall because I was doing all of Excel spreadsheets, looking for software. Jumped online, looked like, hey, is there anything for scheduling for lawn care companies? And all of a sudden, Jonathan Pototschnik's Lawn Care Millionaire page showed up and found Service Autopilot, clicked on the link for Service Autopilot. And that night, I stayed up to like 4 a.m. implementing all my customers in Service Autopilot and just really diving deep into it. The next night, however, I was laying in bed looking at their website and I seen Service Autopilot Academy. And I really didn't know what it was. So I started researching it. There were some biggest badass videos on there. And it was actually Jordan Webb and John DeCostmaker. And their stories resonated with me quite a bit. And I was just like, I really just want to be like these guys. So at the time, it was like, I can't remember if it was $497, if it was $1,000. Can't remember what it was, maybe $797, something like that. Regardless of what it was, I couldn't afford it, to be honest with you, Paul. I didn't have the money to do it. My business was small. It was me and one other guy. And $497 at that time was a stretch. And so I looked at the wife. I'm like, hey, what do you think? And she's like, I think it's too expensive. I said, you're probably right. But I wanted to learn, and I wanted to be like those guys. So like, it's month to month. If it doesn't work, the second month we'll just cancel it. And she's like, all right, sounds good. Put my credit card on file. Charged my card $497, and the suspense had to kill me because I had to wait. I had to wait like 3 weeks for my first training. And it was a long 3 weeks because you're like, it's just that information age when you pay for something, you want it,
Paid
get it
for it,
right away.
I haven't got nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so faith just led me to just hold out. And the first session was on Google My Business. And man, when I tell you that it was a 3 hour long session and I was hooked immediately, I was hooked immediately. All the information that I wanted to know that I was searching. Um, I think I spent that next 3 weeks actually binging Jonathan's YouTube videos. And I was like, man, this guy is a genius. Obviously, he built my trust through the videos. I was his best friend at that time, and he didn't even know me yet. And every month, I got to meet with him and just he'd give us a strategy. I'd go execute. He'd give us another strategy. I'd go execute. And I think what that did, Paul, to be honest with you, is that it showed him that I was willing to put in the work at the time, and not only just say what I was going to go do, but actually do what I said I was going to do. And he started spending a little bit more time, not with me, but specific people in that group, and spending a little bit more time with that person who was implementing well. So he gravitated towards us because we were just, doing our homework basically. And I guess the rest of the story is kind of history. Like fast forward 6 years, like you said, one of my best friends, great mentor. Now it's funny, he'll call me and say, "Hey, what's working on YouTube? What's not working on YouTube?" We'll go back and forth for an hour, texting back and forth what's working, and really bouncing ideas off him. And again, yeah, I get to go hang out on the lakes, and his free time is spent with his best friends, which was the core group of our academy guys that just spent a lot of time together. We met up 4 to 6 times per year. We talked business, we talked personal, so he knew us at a much deeper level than just work. And yeah, just created a really good friendship.
That's so good. I was watching an Instagram reel the other day, and the guy was saying that in racing, like Usain Bolt type racing, the way that you get faster is you have to train with people that are faster than you. Because if you're
Couldn't
running
agree more.
with faster people, it's going to stretch you to step up your game. And so you ran with the best. And Jonathan's obviously financially, he's made a boatload of money selling service autopilot. His traditional lawn business is still alive and well, and does $15 million a year in revenue at a really
Yeah,
good profit margin. And
yeah.
he's a very wealthy fella. And so, you invested to be around somebody that great, and it's paid off dividends in your business endeavors, correct?
Yeah, and I think that's with anything in life, to be honest with you. You want to be better, you want to get faster, you want to make more money. The best way to level up is to find someone that's already leveled up and go hang out with them. With anything. Like same with my daughter wrestling, right? You want to be, she ranks 5th in the state. Okay, you want to go be number 1 in the state, then you have to wrestle number 1 and number 2 all the time. So it's with anything in life. The fastest way to get better at what you're doing. So yeah, I agree. I feel like I got lucky. If I were to pat myself on the back for anything, it was just would be to put myself out there, willing to take the risk, spend the money at the time, and then from there on out, just implement what he taught me. So yeah. And then go back to the story, like COVID hit, like you said, got squirrely around Michigan. We had to shift really fast because COVID was a weird time for us. Not going to get political by any means, but we got shut down here. Yeah, literally shut down. You couldn't go to the gas pump to get gas to go on your own boat in the middle of the lake. Strange time. Lawn care was deemed inessential. We could plow snow. It was like March 16th, my daughter's birthday, so I remember that day vividly. And it wasn't going to snow that year, so strange enough, like yeah, you could go plow snow in a tractor by yourself, but you couldn't go out on a boat by yourself. Needless to say, we had to make a pivot because pest control was at that time was deemed essential. And I saw the writing on the wall that day, man. And I was like, I have got to do something. So what I did is I started driving to Green Bay, Wisconsin, which is about a 2-hour drive from here. And in Wisconsin, you could do lawn care, you could do pest control. And so I just started driving to Wisconsin every single day and started knocking doors. I didn't know how to knock doors, didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what I was selling. I just didn't care. I was just trying to sell something. And I remember walking up to the first door. I about threw up. I was so nervous, turned around and walked away, took a deep breath, walked back up, and knocked on the door, and I sold my first account. And it was actually a pest control account. It was a one-time. It wasn't recurring at the time. And I just got this huge adrenaline rush, like, man, that was so awesome. Like that my eyes lit up. I'm like, I can do this. And then from there on out, yeah, I started knocking doors, got a little bit better throughout the summer. I think from like July, late June, July to like September, I put on like 400 accounts. At that time, also, I brought two other guys with me and someone who could service. And yeah, and then next year is when I actually hired someone to come in and as a consultant to come in and teach us how to do it the right way.
Did
So it
you
was a massive
you ever
pivot.
heard of Timothy Yusty?
No.
No, he's a South African door-to-door salesman. I went to a millionaire boot camp and he was the instructor and he was absolutely next level of he sold alarm systems.
Yeah,
Uh, but he would share these stories of how good he got, like every word and gesture and body language of how he would, you know,
absolutely.
he could knock on a door at midnight and sell something. Not literally, but he was
Yeah.
just there's so much science that goes to selling. And so I didn't know if that's who you had hired, but
No,
he's
I didn't. I actually hired Sam Taggart, who is very well known in the industry. I hired him as a consultant. He sent out Parker Langeveld, who was one of the top sales guys in the country at that time. And he came out to Wisconsin for 3 or 4 weeks and really put a lot of time and effort into us. And again, that was another pivotal time in my story because to hire Sam at that time, Paul, was 70 grand. Again, COVID had hit, lost a bunch of money, burned through my savings from the summer, the year before, 2019. Didn't snow a whole lot. Now we don't know, like PPP is coming and all that stuff. Didn't know any of that. And at the same time, I decided to go all in on this door knocking thing because I saw the potential with it. Again, threw it on a credit card. And I was like, 70 grand's a lot of money, right? And everyone's like, you are absolutely insane. Like, how could you ever spend $70,000 to have someone teach you how to do something? Well, hindsight 2020, it worked out. But that next month, we did over 100 grand revenue knocking doors. So did it pay for itself with the ROI there? 100%. Now, door to door has made me millions of dollars at this point. So was it worth it? Absolutely. But I believed in myself too.
So tell us a little bit about the pest control business. You
Yeah.
started that from scratch in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
tell us a little bit of the story. And I think guys listening, you need to understand when to pivot because
Yeah.
there's money to be made in home service industry or other things, and you just got to know when to pivot. So tell us your story.
Yeah. So I get down to Green Bay, selling lawn care, selling pest control. I'm gonna back up a little bit. When I was 12 years old, Paul, I seen a pest control truck drive by my dad's house, and my aunt and uncle lived next door. I was mowing my dad's lawn, made him pay me. I think it was like 25 bucks. Took me like an hour and a half. It was like acre and a half or whatever. And he'd pay me like 25 bucks, and then I wash his truck for the extra 25. And I seen this black truck go by. It's Pinozzo's Pest Control. They're still in business. They've been here for 25 plus years. Great company. And they stopped at my aunt and uncle's. I seen him rip around the house real quick, spraying the house, and walked away. 10, 15 minutes later, I'm still mowing lawns. Walked over there because I was curious. I went to go knock on my aunt and uncle's front doors just to kind of see what they were doing. And there was an invoice hanging on the door in a plastic bag. I opened up the door and it was like $129 or something like that at the time, or 140 bucks. And I was like, man, they were here for 15 minutes and they charged this much, and I'm over here cutting grass for this much. And that's when the first time I said, you know what, someday I'm gonna do that. Didn't know how, but I just knew it some way that I was gonna do it. So that was ingrained in my head at a young age. At that time, if you'd asked me what I wanted to do at 12 years old, I wanted to own a lawn care company in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So that was my goals at a young age. So fast forward, I'm in Green Bay doing lawn care. And what I find to be the need in that area was pest control. And I found it was relatively easy to sell in the doors. Fertilization weed control was a little bit harder to sell because of the timing. We were in, July, late June, July, August, where most people had already signed up for the year. And so I just kept selling pest control, pest control, pest control. And then it morphed into what I didn't know was going to be a pest control company. So plan was go down there, start a lawn care company, started selling pest control, and now morphed into a pest control company where we have, I think we're at 7 locations at this point. We should be by 9 by May 1st, if everything, as long as everything stays well as it does on paper. But yeah, we just kept building and building and building the last 3 years, recruiting teams, Got really good at marketing from Jonathan. Really got really good at SEO, Google My, like all this stuff, like just marketing in general. I got really good at that, upselling customers. Make sure watching the LTV of our clients. Really, really dove into the numbers. And along the way, as we grew, I hired some very, very skilled people in sales and finance operations because I'm not that guy. I was good at sales, good at marketing, terrible at operations. I did it enough. I was good enough to like get us where we needed to go. But then I brought someone that was their one core job. And then the next person I brought in was finance. Their one core job was just finance. So I've gotten really good at building a team around me. Again, because I had a great mentor.
Now, I think the marketing component really translates over into a lot of my listeners have lawn mowing businesses. So a
Yeah.
lot of your marketing tips that you learned from Jonathan and implemented can really be applicable to folks out
Oh,
on the mower right
100%.
now listening. Can you give us kind of your top 2 or 3 ways that's going to draw a customer and get them to pay
Sure.
you money?
Sure. And so, yeah, for all the people who are listening to this that are in the lawn care space, like I sold my company. We were doing like $2.9 million in 2021. So I ended up selling that company originally, and I tell that story. I sold the lawn care company and went all into this pest control thing. We were doing like 2.9 million, and it was a great business. So in lawn care, I'm just gonna say in my neck of the woods, it was a little bit harder and bigger lawns, bigger equipment. Not a lot of people. My hometown is 13,000 people. So when you talk about dominate your market, that's where I'm headed with this conversation. We really dominated the market. We got really good at it. Now, when it comes to the question that you asked, marketing, the top 3 things. So I'd hate to tell your listeners, like, just go do this one thing and you'll get great results at it, right? It's you have to think of marketing as a wheel. Think of like your bike tire. There's all those little spokes, and if 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those spokes are missing, the wheel just kind of breaks and doesn't spin anymore, right? So that's how you have to look at your marketing. So it's all the little pieces. It's the every door direct mailers, the postcards, the email upsell campaigns, the Google My Business, the LSA ads, Google ads, door to door, like everything that you can think of. Obviously, you want to generate. You want to be able to take your customers and upsell them into the next service. You want to make sure that they are bringing in customers for you and having an easy way to track which customer came from where, from what customer came from that referral. Again, all these pieces are a huge part of the puzzle. Now, if you're a smaller company and you don't have a lot of money, the cheapest and fastest way to grow your company by far is going to be door to door. Hands down, you cannot keep up with what we do. Now, if you have, if you have 10, 20, $30,000 a month to spend on your ad spend, then you can definitely keep up. But it takes a while to get to that point. Well, now if you take that same amount of ad spend on top of what we do on door to door, it's just it's a whole new ballgame. But we still do the lawn signs with QR codes. Like we do it all, Paul. Like it's not just one thing. But again, for us, the top 3 would be lawn signs, would be referrals. Door to door obviously is number 1, and then online ads is number 2. And your cheapest ads that you're going to get are going to be your LSA ads. I think we're at like $12 lead right now, converting at like 80%. So we're paying like $30 a client, something like that.
What's LSA stand for, Jonas?
Your local service ads. So go to Google, search in your Google LSA, sign up. It's a little bit of a process. Back in the day when we first got in to get Google Guaranteed, it took us like 6 to 8 months probably. Now they've gotten a lot faster. So every time we open up a branch, we have to do this all over again. Have to have a different license. Have to have different EIN numbers. Blah blah blah. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. But what I was saying is that it just goes a lot faster these days. So they're going to do a background check. They're going to make sure you have insurance. You're going to make sure that your trucks are wrapped. They're going to make sure you're a legit business. So when someone searches lawn care near me, right, that your name with the little green checkbox right next to it's going to say Google Guaranteed, and they're going to show up number 1 organically.
Let's go. That was worth the podcast right there, boys.
Hell yeah. So it's all those little things, Paul. Again, there's so many pieces of that wheel that you just got to keep that wheel spinning. So, and again, don't just dump ads into spend the money just to spend the money. If your marketing company can't tell you where your ad spend goes, find a new marketing company. You need to hold those people to a high standard as well. So for all you guys that are listening, saying, "Hey, well, I spent $500 last week or last month. Where did it go?" And they're like, "Oh, well, I can't really tell you." Then you need to reach out to Paul and find someone new that can do those things for you, because you guys aren't big enough, and me either, to just spend money just to spend money. And if your marketing company also said, "Oh, we're just going to do this as a brand tactic," again, we're not big enough to just do a brand deals, right? So we got to make sure that we are getting the ROI on every dollar that we spend.
That is so good. I'm curious, in pest control, Jonas, I've seen a reel you did about bed bugs in some hotel, and I was like, heck
Yeah.
no, man.
Yeah.
I'll stick to cutting that grass and making that
Yeah.
cash. Tell us some crazy stories of these critters that you guys go chasing down.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, bugs are different, right? Different than grass. And you guys can go check out my YouTube page, and there's some pretty gross stuff. Like, you walked into places where you're a foot high in garbage and feces and little kids living in it. It's not a great situation. Um, we've had we've had squatters in abandoned hotels with cockroaches, to the point where they had to destroy the whole building because it was a vacant motel. The city bought it back the land and had to demolish the entire motel because there's houses around it, and they didn't want the bugs from the motel moving into the houses next door. So when I was saying we've seen most everything, we've seen most everything. Skunks in people's under people's houses, raccoons climbing up into their attics, like mice in the attics, you name it, we've probably seen it. Bats is another big one for us too.
There's a mouse in the house.
There is, and I'm thankful when they call us.
Yeah, when my family moved into a new house and I was in the 8th grade, and I slept in the basement, and so I my first night there, I kept hearing something in the wall, and I told my parents, like, "There's I couldn't sleep last night. I kept hearing something, like, was in the wall," and they're like, "Ah, it's nothing." And then I kept hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. So finally, they had an exterminator came out, and when they had built the house, they just left the window open, at night, and mice had come in and they had gone into the wall. So they put these mouse traps all over and got a
Yeah.
whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, you could think of like a mouse itself can fit through a quarter size hole, so a quarter-inch hole. They can just slide it in pretty easy. So, to do an exclusion for mice is pretty important because they can pretty much get in anywhere.
That's crazy. We have a lot of snakes down here, but I guess up north you guys probably don't have the big rattlesnakes and things that we got down here.
Yeah, we don't have any poisonous snakes, which I'm thankful for, because again, if there were snakes, I would probably be on top of my truck or not going to that job. But hopefully, I can find some technicians that would.
Yeah, I guess pest control in Wisconsin is different than
It
pest
is.
control in Florida.
Definitely. And so we don't have the rattlesnakes. We don't have any poisonous spiders, nothing like that. Like, we get termites. Depending on how far north or south you go, we get termites, and we run into a lot of wildlife stuff. Again, a lot of bats, a lot of bed bugs. Do tons of bed bug work. So, yeah, it's not it's not the exact same as lawn care, because you can't, if you bring back some grass in your clothes, it's pretty easy to just throw your clothes outside. But when you bring bed bugs back at home, I don't think anyone's going to be very happy with you. So, just a little bit different.
Now that
Because bed bugs
mo
just travel well, right? It has nothing to do with being dirty. They just travel really well. So they
mm,
can just stick to clothing, they can stick to your luggage, wherever, and just show up in your house. And yeah,
yikes.
and then it gets pretty gross.
So that motel, before they demolished it, they wanted you guys
Mhm.
to rid all the bugs, so when they did demolish it, they didn't go over to the neighbor's house?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we were there for like 8 hours. Um, as they brought stuff out to throw it in the garbage, we had to treat it. They clean up the rooms, we treat the rooms. So it was a big process. We were working with the state and the city, but it was a great job. They paid us well, and yeah, I'd do it again for sure.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about JP, the Lawn Care
Yeah,
Millionaire. If you were to,
yeah,
like, write a book about him, Jonas, and you are the author of the or I guess it'd be a biography of the
Yeah.
life of Jonathan Pototschnik. He's so fascinating to me. He's so focused and dialed in and successful. And at
Mm.
Naylor's event, he gets on stage and he opens up. He's like, "I feel like you're compromised," and the
Yeah.
room like for an hour, he was just drilling us that we're not reaching our potential. And you can't
Yeah.
argue with a man who's worth,
Mm.
you know, his net worth. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's astronomical. So what if you wrote the book of lessons I learned from Jonathan Pototschnik? What are just some things you've observed being around such a successful business person?
Man, it'd be a long book. He he's very, very articulate, obviously. He's very, very smart. He retains a lot of information, which is a skill in itself. And no matter how many books you and I read, Paul, we probably couldn't retain the information that he can. And so he has an unfair advantage. And yeah, I could probably tell you what his net worth is, but that's not my job to say. That can be his. We've had a lot of discussions about that. But man, he is genuinely just a great person. Like, he doesn't even realize the impact that he's made on this industry. I've tried to explain it to him, hanging out on the boat or at his house or whatever. All the people that reach out, they just want to talk to him. I had a friend, we're a rabbit hole, but I had a friend that said, "Man, one of my lifelong goals is to just talk to him on the phone one time." And I've heard this story, man, which I'm sure you have, thousands of times, like literally thousands of times. And he'd be like, "Heck yeah, just give him my phone number." Like, he's just a genuine. So yeah, at that lake house, he picked up the phone, and my friend Dion got to talk to him for 45 minutes. They exchanged phone numbers, and Dion can reach out to him whenever he wants. Now, obviously, I wouldn't share his phone number without him asking, but point is that it comes from a good place. Like, all the knowledge, everything that he wants to do, like, he's just sharing his experiences that he's had that's worked for him and that he wants to teach you. And that's all he wants, is to up level the entire industry as a whole and make others successful along the way. And I could go deeper than that, but that's Jonathan to a whole. He's a great mentor. He's a great coach. He's a great father. He's a great husband. Obviously, a great leader in the industry, and yeah, he's doing some big things.
From your perspective, you were obviously in the right place at the right time, and you put yourself in proximity to him.
Yeah. Mm.
How can we find those, like back to the race, run with people faster than you? Like what can we do? Because these guys have more money than us, they have more success than us.
Mhm.
We don't want to be,
Yeah,
we need to be givers, not takers. Like, how do we put ourselves in those positions that we can locate the people that we want to, be
I
in?
love that question. So it's easy. It just literally whatever space you're in, lawn care, pest control, HVAC, plumbing, find the people that are doing big things that you want to emulate. Reach out to them. 9 times out of 10, they're going to respond. They generally want to help people. Like, you're never going to get hate from those guys. They're never going to tell you no. They might tell you that they're busy, they don't have time, but they're still willing to help you. It's the people who are typically behind that you're going to get the hate from. You never get haters from the people who are in front of you. You get the haters from people who are behind you. So just, what are they going to say? No. So just again, find that person, reach out to them. There's so many coaching groups now these days too. So many Facebook pages. There's lots of people everywhere. But if you're looking for that one person, just DM them. Instagram, Facebook, whatever it takes. Pretty easy.
That's so good, and definitely find mentors that you deeply, deeply respect. There's a lot of these guru jokers out there that's
Yeah.
like, "Dude, you're 20, 20 year I'm gonna teach you." Well, I'm like, "Dude, like, give me a break." But
Yeah, they teach you all these things that they say they're going to, and they actually don't have a big business themselves. So yeah, definitely be cognizant of who you're reaching out to. Not just some fly by nighter who's got a massive YouTube page or whatever that thinks they know. Just find the people who are actually been there and done it. Maybe have had an exit or two, that are still in the space and paving the path for us. So again, there's millions of people out there in the industry that are doing massive things. Just reach out to them.
yeah, and I've watched Jonathan on YouTube. I mean, out of all the lawn care content that I consumed, The Lawn Care Millionaire from a knowledge business perspective was by far, I mean, you can't even, there's not even a close second. It's just by far, I got the most value from watching those videos. And there were nothing, there was no editing, the audio wasn't
It's
even that
raw.
great. He just
Mm.
stood in front of a whiteboard. I don't even think he cracked a smile, and he just like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
boom, boom,
it
boom, boom.
was. It's kind of funny. He was on a podcast, and you heard it. We were talking about our pages, right, or YouTube pages. Like his views versus my views, I had like quadruple, maybe even more than that of the views that he had. But his also had made him like hundreds of millions of dollars versus a couple $100. So it just, yeah, I agree with you.
And at that event you were at, Keith Kalfas was there, and he had
Mm,
referenced he watched those videos that I watched and Naylor watched,
yeah.
and then there was a fellow there named Jeremy Talboy. He lives here in Atlanta,
Yep. Yep.
and, he does multi-millions per year. I actually just went golfing
Landscaping.
with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went golfing, recently, and I think we're going again next week. But he watched those same videos that Jonathan put out there. So I say all of that when you're selecting your mentor. I have so much respect for Jonathan. Those are the guys you got to just be very careful. Don't be blowing your money with this 20-year-old guru that couldn't even, if he
Yeah.
saw Jonathan's bank account, he would, you know, he'd fall over. But that's
Right.
what I wanted to say about that. And also, you're just very proactive. Naylor was telling me the story. He called me one day. He's like, I met this guy, Jonathan, and JP told him to be at my event. And he whipped out his phone and he bought a ticket. And I was like, he's like, who are these people? And then you're proactive. You showed up in Atlanta. Then you heard about the Lawn Care Life Conference. You showed up there, and we had a grand old time. Or at least I did, with you and Pajak and Naylor at the
Absolutely.
hotel. Like I thoroughly enjoyed getting to hang out with you that night after the event, and grabbing barbecue and all that stuff. So you're very proactive, Jonas.
Yeah, and again, it's just a skill again that I've learned along the way that I trust in myself, and I've gotten pretty good at making decisions. I don't hit home runs every time, but again, I have a little bit more money to spend than I used to. So, uh, at that event, we met a person who's a YouTube strategist. So I was like, definitely bet this guy. Um, again, I have this platform that I use to help teach this thing, and I just go all in. And that's how my brain works. Like so here's an example of how my brain operates. We were in Florida last week for a leadership team, or with my leadership team, doing our 2-day offsite, and the hot tub wasn't working. So called an HOA place to send someone over. In the meantime, I cannot shut my brain off or sit down until I get this thing figured out. And so that's just how my quick start goes into overdrive and really takes over. So when I find something that I'm interested, I'm all in, and then like I'll spend the money, I'll do whatever it takes to figure that one thing out. And that's kind of what I did with you guys. Like I knew where I wanted to go with YouTube page or a podcast, but I didn't know anything about it. Again, I got proximity with Jonathan. Talking to Jonathan, he's like, "Hey, you need to talk to Naylor." And I was like, "Hey, I'm having this event," and pulled up my phone on the spot, got tickets, and then flew down there a couple months later. That same night, there's another YouTube guy there, which we all know. It's like, hey, you need to meet this guy. Went and chatted with him, and yeah, it's just how my brain works, man. Like, uh, I love to read, I love to learn, and I didn't go to college. I went to college for welding for 2 semesters, got my certificates. Hated to read, and I can honestly tell you that during like my 12 years of school, like I don't think I've ever checked out a book, or maybe in like 4th to 5th grade. Now I read every single day. I love to learn. So anything that I can pay to move the needle faster is what I'm going to do.
How's it going with the YouTube? I don't know if you've been working with Jeremy, but have
Yeah.
you been implementing the hooks and the content
Mhm.
ideas, and how's all that going? I know the YouTube algorithm's a tough cookie, but how have you been doing with all that?
It's been good. We started YouTube about a year ago. We went from 0 to 20,000 like immediately, talking subs. And then it just like fell on its face. We couldn't figure out what was going on. And we had a couple of videos go viral, like 10 million views over our first year. So we were doing a lot of good things. And then again, it fell on its face, hired Jeremy. And yeah, it's been great, man. Like our editing style had changed. Now every second, third video, we're hitting 10, 12, 15, 17,000 every 2 to 3 videos. So it's definitely going good. I just got off a call with him before I jumped to the podcast. We had a strategy call for an hour and a half with him and my editors, and looking what the next month and prepping for next month, 2 months out. Again, connecting me with other people that are doing similar things in my space that are ahead of me, flying out there, going to go shoot some content with them and help each other's pages out. So yeah, there's it's been going really, really well. He's a guru for sure. He's smart. Um, yeah, it's been. I've been extremely happy for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Jonas. Well, you
I
have
think
the
that's going to be my full time job though. Like it's a full time job, as you know, like just creating content. Like I have a person meet me here in 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and we're just shooting 2 videos because I got to leave for my trip. So I'm like a month ahead of schedule, but I just don't want to get behind either.
Yeah, and that's something Jonathan told me, because I'm spinning so many plates, and
Yeah,
JP, Jonathan Pototschnik, he's like, you guys, you can't be straddling the fence. He's like, you need to be, and he told Naylor and Pajak this because Naylor has a lawn business in Virginia.
mm,
Pajak has a lawn fertilizer business in Indiana, and then they're trying to
pick
create
one.
their podcasts and
Yeah,
their content, and he and I'm all in on the content now. And it took me
mm,
like 3 years where I was juggling it both. And JP is like, Paul, go all in on the content, all in on the content. I said, yes, sir. And to
yeah,
hear that from him, it like settled everything. But these guys that are trying to do both, it's almost impossible. It's like, if you're going to run your local home service business, do that and run your content based off that. But if you're trying to do a more broader thing, then do that. So when you say it's a full-time job, it is. Like,
yeah.
for your time, you can put in 40 plus hours a week on your YouTube content, and obviously repurposing that on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and all the bells and whistles. But yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
really is.
in my story is a little bit different because I built a solid leadership team. I don't have to spend 40 hours at the business, even though it feels like I still work 80 hours. Seems like it's 40 hours there, 40 hours doing this. I love to work, but it doesn't feel like work. It's just fun. Um, so I'm in a little bit different spot than a lot of the YouTubers. Like I built a decently sized company. We're still growing. Built in a really good leadership team. So it doesn't consume all of my time. I'm not out there doing services. I'm just meeting with my leadership team once in the morning. We have a strategy call, every Tuesday, 11 o'clock. So yeah, and then I guess I got some free time. So my free time is now just doing podcasts, creating content, really, really driving home the marketing as a brand, right? So we franchised last year. Um, we're projected to sell 78 locations in the next 5 years. So the play, with the whole YouTube and podcasts, it's not just it is for marketing for our company in several different buckets.
Fantastic. Well, I know you mentioned you got to shoot some content here in 20 minutes or so, so I'll let you go use the restroom, get some water, snack, get ready for that. But how can people connect with you and shout out all your socials?
For sure. So, for all you home service guys, check out the podcast Pest Control Millionaire. Obviously, I got that from Jonathan. He's the Lawn Care Millionaire. I'm just copying exactly the what he showed me how to do. So it's just Pest Control Millionaire. You can check my website, pestcontrolmillionaire.com, or just search me on Instagram, which is at Jonas Olson official. Jonas Olson on Facebook. I mean, there's not too many Jonas Olsons out there, to be honest. So I'm pretty easy to find. YouTube, same thing. Just look up Turf Badger, Pest Control Millionaire, anything you want to. And again, reach out if you guys have any questions. You guys need help with anything? Like I'm more than willing to help. That's what we're here for.
Cool. Well, it was awesome to meet you in Atlanta, and even better to get to spend more time with you and Naylor and Pajak, and we had some good
You haven't
laughs.
seen the last of me, Paul.
So I can't wait, man. Hopefully I'll be hanging out at Mar-a-Lago, and I'll be stepping up my game, hanging out with you and the networking opportunities you're so proactive with. So I'm trying to get there, man.
Yeah, just before I wasn't intentional with it as far as networking goes. It was almost by accident. I was a very talkative person and just wanted to learn. So I just go surround myself with people in conferences and put my name out there. And then it just turned into like now very intentional about it. So when I go to these events, like I'm on a mission to talk to this many people, take this many phone numbers, connect with all these people. So now it's very intentional. But I've built a very, very vast network over the past 5 years just from doing all those strategies as well.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate your time, Jonas, and I will definitely be in touch, my man. And then you guys can go follow him, Pest Control Millionaire. and follow Jonas's content.
I appreciate Paul, and I appreciate having me on. And again, I appreciate our new friendship. It's been awesome.